Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Thanks for jumping on, and it's great to catch up with you again.
My pleasure.
It was about 6 months ago, I'd say, that we had our sessions,
Yep,
and we did two, if I recall right.
that's right.
So, thank you for jumping on and doing this interview for me. And so where do we start? Well, let's start with what brought you to wanting to have the sessions with me.
Very good question. I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist with anxiety about 5 years ago, and I was placed on medication. And the medication worked at first, but then my anxiety was still through the roof, and I was medicated. And every time I called the doctor, he just kept upping my dose. And it kind of got to the point where I was not feeling myself. I was almost kind of dulled down, yet the anxiety was still through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And with my anxiety, like a basic day, I would wake up with this like shot of fear and a cold sweat down my spine. And I just feel like this impending doom, like something bad was going to happen, but I didn't know what was going to happen. And that's how the day would start.
Mm-hmm.
I found my sleep was really broken. I found it really hard to sleep. I found that my anxiety was so bad that it was starting to affect my daughter. My daughter was starting to get anxiety because she was picking up on my vibes all the time.
Yeah.
I would get panic attacks. 3 times the ambulance had to come to get me because the panic attacks would come on and I just could not breathe. I couldn't get a breath and I couldn't swallow either. So it was really, really scary. Driving the car was a really awful experience for me. And I would just kind of get cold sweats the whole time when I was driving the car, even to places that I'd been quite a few times.
Wow.
My partner, when we go out to dinner, he'd always be asking me, "Are you okay?" And I just would be so anxious being in a new environment and all these other people around. I wasn't myself. I couldn't, and being around friends, like everyone would be talking and having a great time. And I just would be like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to communicate with people because I just felt so on edge, like something bad was going to happen, but I didn't know what was going to happen or where it was going to come from. So I was just constantly on edge. It was ruining my life. It was ruining my life and ruining my life.
And this was happening over a 5-year period, you mentioned?
Yes. Almost 6 years. Yeah, five and a bit years.
So let me ask you this. And obviously you saw a psychiatrist, you said?
Yeah.
And they put you on medication, and by no means are we suggesting here anyone dabbles or changes their medication or anything like that, go off it. So we're not suggesting any of that. You're just telling your story. So we've got to get that out there, 100%, so people understand. And you're just telling us your story. So when you caught up with me the first time, can you go into that experience a little bit?
Yeah, sure. When we had our first session, I was physically and mentally exhausted because being so anxious is exhausting. Like I felt like I couldn't sit down and watch a movie. I couldn't sit down and put my feet up because I just felt like, oh, something bad is going to happen. I can't be still.
Yeah.
So the first session we had, I was absolutely exhausted. And you kind of said to me, you were like, "Nikki, you're so exhausted.
Yeah.
How about you get back to me when you're not feeling
Yeah.
this tired, because I was almost falling asleep on the Zoom.
Yeah.
And it was, this might sound a bit weird, but the first session, even though we kind of felt like we didn't get anywhere, it was almost like, and this sounds so weird, it was almost like my anxiety was testing you to see if you could help. Because I honestly, to be quite honest, I didn't think anything was going to work.
Yeah.
And when you kind of said to me, look, Nikki, I really want to help you, but I think you're too tired now. Why don't you come back to me when you're ready? And that just made me feel like, oh, he really cares about me. He really wants to help me with this anxiety. So after our first session, my anxiety then really peaked after that. And that's when I got in contact with you again. And I just said, look, Ivan, I'm in a really bad way. I need some help.
Yeah.
So then we had our second session.
Yeah.
Which was completely epic. How long did it go for? Like about 3 hours?
Yeah, about 3 hours.
Yeah. And you said something in the session. You said to me, is this your belief or is it somebody else's belief about me being so anxious? And that just stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, hang on a minute. This isn't my belief. This isn't true for me. This is something I was taught. And after that second session, where we nutted out exactly where my anxiety came from, what caused it, and what I love so much about it was you didn't give me any advice. You didn't try and fix me. You just asked really simple questions that triggered in me, like it just made me stop and think for the first time, like, and thinking from a place where I was clear, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And you allowed me to figure things out.
Yeah.
Like I came to all of the realizations and understandings myself, which was really, really powerful.
Absolutely, Nikki, because, this is the thing. And people, even watching this will recognize this, when you try and tell or give advice to someone, often a barrier comes up. So the way that we do this is you've got the answers within you, which you discovered on your own, which is amazing. So, yeah, please continue.
Yeah, so after that session, the next day I woke up, there was no shot of like cold sweat, no feeling of impending doom. And I thought, oh, this is unusual.
Can I pause you there, Nikki? So would it be over a 5-year period? Was it like once a week that it initially started and it got worse? And was it every day eventually, or
every day? It was every day I'd wake up like that. And it would depend on what I had to do. If I had to drive the car, which I had to pretty much every day, I'd be worrying about that. I'd be constantly worrying about my daughter. Like I was so overprotective because I was just felt this impending doom all the time.
Wow.
So I'm surprised when her first word wasn't careful. I wasn't just a helicopter parent. I was a rescue helicopter parent. And yeah, just this, like, not being able to eat properly, not being able to sleep properly, not being able to communicate how I felt, and just talk and have social interactions. I found it really difficult to go out to events and stuff, to friends' birthdays and weddings and stuff like that. And these have been my friends all my life.
Wow.
So there was no reason for this, but I just had this awful feeling of anxiety. And then probably about once a month, I would have a huge panic attack.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, Nikki, like looking now, how have things changed for you?
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? Um, Firstly, I've been off my medication now for about 4 months, but I did that with my doctor's
Yeah.
approval and with my doctor's help. Like they were monitoring, if I did feel anxiety, if things got to call and they'd sort me out again and whatever.
Excellent.
I have a new job. I've applied. Applied for this job that I never would have applied for before because I just wouldn't have thought that I could get a job like the job I have now. I've gone to uni, and that's something I never thought I would ever do because I just couldn't concentrate on things before because it was almost like I was attached to an electric fence.
Wow.
And every couple of minutes it would buzz me, like I'd get a shock. My relationship with my daughter has improved. I'm no longer suffocating her with this helicopter, and she doesn't have anxiety. All of her anxiety's gone. It's really improved my relationship with my partner because I'm able to communicate with him and say how I feel and talk, and it's really strengthened and enriched all of my relationships with my friends and my family. Driving the car's a breeze now. Even going to places that I don't know that could be like an hour or 2 hours drive, I'm just totally fine. What else?
That's so many changes, Nikki.
Yeah.
From what you've talked about, it's so wonderful to hear this because this is the thing. It's not just like the anxiety disappearing, but so many other wonderful changes have happened in your life, from the relationships with your friends to your partner, with your daughter, being able to drive everywhere, getting up and waking up to a wonderful day. I'm so happy to hear that these things have been happening.
And I can sit down now and put my feet up and watch movies, telly. My sleep's so much better. I'm able to sit down and actually eat and enjoy a meal, whereas before my stomach would just be churning, and just the actual just sitting down through a meal used to just be too much.
Wow. So, Nikki, let me ask you this question. So, after the second session, when we had the second session, how long did it take until you started to notice changes?
Straight away. The next morning when I woke up, I didn't have that shot of, I didn't have that. And that's when I just thought, oh God, this is really interesting. I felt like I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
I was like, here, no, it's got, no.
Looking for it.
But just after the second session, the thing I found scariest about anxiety is it would come on and come out of nowhere, and I didn't understand why I was feeling this way.
Yeah.
And then because I was feeling anxious, I'd then say to myself, you shouldn't be anxious. And then that would make me more anxious. But after the second session, when we dug really deep and we uncovered the root cause of my anxiety, everything just made sense. It was like this huge weight being lifted off me. And for the first time in my life, I felt like me, like I didn't have this impending doom. And it was 2 weeks after the session, that's when I contacted my doctor, and I just said, look, I told him about our session, and I just said, look, I really feel I'm ready to come off my meds. Wow. So they decreased the dose. It was all done in a safe way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which everyone should do. But there was just a deep knowing in me that my anxiety wasn't controlling. I don't know, it's really hard to put into words because I'd been anxious for so long. I thought that was normal.
Yeah. Wow.
So when the anxiety left, that's when I started realizing, oh my God, I was so anxious. Like this anxiety ruled my life. It made all the decisions for me because I had to have all these systems and things in place to get through a day.
And it's really interesting, Nikki, what you just said then was it was like normal. So it's like living with it, and because it's there all the time, that's like just normal. And then what truly is what you could say is normal without it, it's like a new experience. And it's like you were actually searching to find where it is. That was no longer there anymore. And that would have taken adjusting too, right?
Yeah, it really did take adjusting. It was like it's kind of like okay. So say you've been working so hard and then you go on holiday and you don't realize how exhausted you've been until you actually stop.
Yeah.
And that's how I was with the anxiety. I didn't realize how severe my anxiety was until it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, wow.
And all the systems and things that I had to do just to get through a day or even get through a morning, I didn't have to do anymore.
Yeah, wow.
And just that feeling of impending doom, like, oh my God, something bad is going to happen. And I've got to be on high alert to make sure that I can keep myself safe, my daughter safe, my family safe. And when it left, it was a really strange feeling because I think for so much of my life, the anxiety in my mind was almost like a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
Of keeping me safe.
Yeah.
But and I think why the change happened so quickly for me was really understanding the root cause of my anxiety and me coming to that conclusion.
Absolutely.
Me having that understanding that, oh, this is why all these years I've felt anxious and this is why. And it just made total sense. And that's when you said, do you believe this? Or is this your belief? And when you said that, it just a light bulb went on and I just thought, this isn't my belief. I don't believe that I have to work so hard to achieve what I need or for me, like working so hard to gain approval and love from the people that loved me. You know, when I tell them now the things that were going through my head, they're just like, what? We had no idea.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to being so incredibly anxious and uncomfortable, I then had all these strategies and things in place to deal with it. So no one kind of knew.
So you would hide it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And this is a thing with many things that go on with people. It's like you don't want others to know what's going on. Was it so you wouldn't burden them, or what was sort of behind, your thinking of like, I don't need people to know about this?
I felt like a failure. I felt like I was letting everyone down. I felt like no one would understand. Like when I had panic attacks in the past, like or when I was anxious, people, just calm down. You'll be fine. You'll be right. Just breathe. You're right. And that was everyone's kind of attitude because they didn't understand because I wasn't communicating how severe it was.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the words to even communicate how it was. And when I did kind of try to piece things together, I thought, I sound insane. I can't tell people that I'm scared of something that's going to happen, that I don't know what's going to happen, but I know something's going to happen. Like it doesn't make sense, like, you know, and I thought no one's going to understand that. So I just kind of kept it to myself. And then that made it so much worse. And the other thing in our session,
sorry, Nikki, like holding the floodgates back, so to speak.
Like holding a big beach ball underwater.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, but also in our session, I felt so comfortable. Once we got to the root cause, I was able to tell you things I haven't told anyone.
Yeah.
And that felt so good. I was like, oh my God, you're going to think I'm crazy, Ivan, but I think this and this and this. And you're like, okay, let's talk about that. And I was just like, oh, okay. You know, you didn't tell me to calm down or like, again, give me advice or fix me or anything. You just were curious as to how I got to these conclusions.
Yeah. And it's so, I really appreciate you being so open and, you know, and everything that you're speaking about, Nikki. I've got to say that first of all. And let me ask you now, like you've mentioned, like what's happened, like how it all sort of happened and unfolded and where you're at now. And what sort of do you see for the future for yourself now?
Well, the future is very bright. I feel like my true authentic self, like I'm present with my daughter, I'm present with my partner, I'm present with my friends. With the anxiety, I was always in the future. I was always like, something's going to happen. So I was never really here. And I just think I'm so excited with my uni. I'm going to get an amazing job once I get my degree and doing something that I really love, that I never thought possible. Everything's just so great with my partner. My daughter is just excelling at everything she does, and I'm so proud of her. And just my health, I just feel healthy and happy. Like I'm happy.
Awesome.
You know? And relaxed.
Unreal.
Like just being able to sit down on the couch and watch a movie, even if it was a movie I really wanted to see, I couldn't sit through it. I'm like, you're lazy. You can't sit here. You know, something's going to happen. If you sit too long, you've got to get up and, you know, if I was constantly like this, I was like, I'm going to be okay. This is okay. Wow. So now that feeling's gone, my whole life has changed. So better in every aspect of my life, like my sleep, my relationships,
let's mention that, Nikki, like in regards to your sleep. Like how was your sleep compared to now?
I was firstly going to sleep was really hard because I couldn't switch my mind off.
Okay.
And then I'd probably wake up every couple of hours with a jolt.
Yeah, wow.
And a sweat. And then by the time I get back to sleep, when I'd wake up in the morning, that was when the worst jolt would come. Wow. And this feeling of impending doom. And it took so much energy from me. Like I would be, even though I was on high alert, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And when you're exhausted or on high alert, you can't learn things. You can't learn new things. You can't, like I said before, be present with people. You can't be present with yourself.
Yeah. And now that you're rested, you're at uni, and you mentioned something that like they made a mistake with uni and you're like weeks behind. Like 12 weeks, was it? And you cramped?
Yeah, 12 weeks. I was 6 weeks behind in 2 subjects, so 12 weeks. Yeah.
And you're able to focus and concentrate and smash it out.
Yeah, I smashed out 12 weeks of uni work in 1 week.
That's incredible.
Including assignments and everything like that.
Now, could you have
because I was able to focus. I could.
Yeah. So if you weren't rested,
Sorry?
if you weren't rested, do you think you would have got that done?
No way. I would have had a panic attack. I couldn't have done that. I wouldn't have gone to uni.
Yeah,
before.
to start with.
That was never on my radar. I never thought that could happen for me.
It's just, Nikki, it's just such an incredible the changes that have happened for you. I'm just so happy to hear that that all these wonderful changes have happened for you. Truly, from your relationship with your daughter to your friends, and I mentioned all that before, but just hearing it again, it's just so wonderful for me to see these changes for you. And you look happy and you look different and you look fresh. You don't look like, when we had our sessions. So, is there anything else you'd want to say? Let me say this. Is there anything you'd want to sort of mention to people that are struggling with anything in their life, that they're not sure about going to therapy, all that sort of thing? Is there anything that you'd want to sort of say to someone that's thinking about it?
Yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. And I think just the way you are with people, Ivan, you have a natural way of putting people at ease straight away. And there's also such a high level of trust there that I knew I could trust you with my deepest, darkest secrets, and I knew that I'd be safe. But if anyone has anxiety and is at their wit's end, or even if they're not at their wit's end, I definitely think for them to come and see you, and they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
except the anxiety. But you don't have to live with anxiety. Anxiety doesn't have to control your life or ruin your life.
Yeah.
There are alternatives out there, and I'm living proof that it works.
Wow. Absolutely, Nikki. And it's been 6 months now since we caught up and all these wonderful things. And I have to say, there's wonderful therapists out there doing wonderful work as well. So, I mean, see someone to help people, to help you, if you need.
Yeah, definitely.
Come and see me. Yeah, absolutely.
Come and see Ivan.
But
I knew that I knew that you could help me because I was so heavily medicated and my anxiety was still through the roof.
Yeah.
So that kind of triggered in me. I just kind of thought, they say like the medicine fixes your brain or whatever, calms that part down or whatever. And I just kind of thought maybe it's an emotional thing. Like it doesn't make any sense for me to be this anxious on this much medication.
Yeah.
Like the medication isn't working, and we tried so many medications. Wow. It's not like we didn't try, and so many doses and stuff, and and medication does work. Like it did work in the beginning. If anyone is on medication, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or meds are bad or whatever. But for me, I was putting these medications in my body, and the anxiety wasn't getting any better.
Yeah. And like you said, Nikki, we're not suggesting anyone, goes off their medication and this and that. They've got to definitely be monitored by their physician.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Because it's just being responsible and the right way to do things.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic, Nikki. Is there anything else you want to mention or say or anything on your side?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome. And thank you. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, Nikki, because I'm hoping that by doing these, it encourages people, especially guys, because as you know, I'm mainly working with guys. They tend to want to keep things locked up or have been taught that. So you coming out and speaking about your experience and what we did and what we worked on together and how things have worked out for yourself, I really appreciate it. Hopefully it encourages other people to come out and speak up and seek help out, because it's there, and you know, we want to see people get on and be happy.
Yeah.
You know? That's the best.
Yeah. And also too, like, you know, like I mentioned before, it wasn't just affecting me. It started to affect my relationships, my daughter. You know, my friends would think, oh, why isn't she returning my call? Or why isn't she coming to my event, my party, my wedding? You know, and then you kind of start to lose friends because you're too ashamed to say, hey, I don't think I can leave the house today. I am so anxious.
Yeah.
You know, so and being able to communicate to someone, this is how I feel, this is what I was going through. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you in that moment, but I just couldn't put words to the anxiety that was going on inside of me, because it didn't make sense. There was, I'm sitting in my house. There is no impending, there was nothing there, but I believe so strongly that there was.
So now what you're saying is you've got the ability to go back to your friends and say, this is what I was going through. At the time, you couldn't do that. And now you're able to go back and say to them, look, this is what was going on and this is what I was experiencing. So that's great. That's huge.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's something about when you're able to speak, and I don't want this to sound woo-woo, but when you're able to speak from your heart or speak your truth, and there's just something so refreshing about that, and just so peaceful. It's peace. You feel inner peace. You know, and I'd never thought that was something I'd ever experience. Ever. So thank you.
Nikki, you're more than welcome.
Thank you so much, Ivan. You've changed my life.
I love it. I love it.
Me too.
I'm so happy for you, Nikki. And
not only have you changed my life, you've changed my daughter's life, my partner's life, my family's life, my friend's life, you know, and with my uni studies, you're going to change. I'm going to be helping other people. You're changing their lives as well. Like, it's got a massive kick-on effect.
That's so good.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Nikki. Thank you. And
welcome.
Thank you again so much for coming on and having this yak with me. And
anytime.
Yeah, awesome. And, you know, we'll check in. Let's talk in a year or so and see where everything's at. I'd love to do that too.
I would love to do that too.
Awesome. Thanks heaps, Nikki.
No worries. Thank you, Ivan.
Talk soon. Bye.